Hey guys, this is King Cryptic here, and today we're gonna be doing our first what if video, and it's just gonna be me in this one. This is gonna be what if Deku had time skip. This is probably gonna suck because it's my first time doing it, but hey, maybe it'll be great, maybe it'll be a hit. You never really know. So let's get on in. Well, let's go ahead and get into how his quirk will work. It's gonna be just like time skip if you watch Dragon Ball Super. Hits using time skip in it and just absolutely murking Goku and Vegeta. Don't hate me, but it doesn't give you a speed boost or a strength boost, but I'm giving him it because I want him to be able to use time skip to its full extent. Because the only reason Hit is able to use it the way he can is because Hit is actually really fast, let alone having the ability to stop time for just a few seconds. He uses his speed to his advantage and makes him very dangerous. I'm also giving him a little bit of a strength boost just because Hit is strong in general. And he has an assassin type fighting style, so Deku will study pressure points and things like that and along those lines, and he'll be able to immobilize his opponents and take them out swiftly and fast. Well, let's just go ahead and get into his birth. How he's born is just like in canon normally. And Inko carried him for 9 months. That's the same in canon, and he's growing up. So let's skip to when he's 5, I think, and they go to their quirk doctor. And so whenever they're at the doctor, I don't really know what test they do, but he doesn't have the joint in his toe, so he has a quirk and he has time skip. And so the doctors tell him if he can train with that quirk and work the time up that it lasts, his time stop lasts, he could maybe potentially become a great hero. Deku is happy and it's just ecstatic in general because he has a useful quirk, or thinks that if he trains hard enough, he could be a #1 hero with his quirk because of what the doctor said. And since the doctor said that he had a pretty amazing quirk, his thought process has kind of changed. Not on the scale of Bakugo's, but now he wouldn't see himself as useless. And so let's cut to the next day where they're doing a show and tell of their quirks. So let's skip to Bakugo. He does his little crackles, and then everyone's just excited and thinks it's cool. And then people say he's amazing and stuff. And then Bakugo, it's oh wow, I really am amazing. That thought process. And the teachers say it as well, and say that he can be a good hero too. And then let's say Deku is after Bakugo, and Deku will tell them that he can stop time, but not for very long. And the doctor said that he could stop it for less than a second, which Bakugo doesn't really think that it's useful at all. If you can barely stop time, and he thinks that it wouldn't really do anything. But then the teacher asks if he could show them, and he does. But to everyone else, it looked like he moved about 5 inches away from his spot, barely going anywhere. So they think maybe his quirk is some teleporting thing, and nobody really gets it, but people clap anyways at what he did. So, because hey, they're in kindergarten. So I'm gonna say they go to recess, right? And Deku tries to just play with Kacchan. And then they're in a conversation about his quirk, and then Bakugo sees his quirk as useless because you can barely stop time. Like I said earlier, it doesn't go anywhere, and so he gives Deku the nickname Deku because he thinks he really is useless, which is absolutely retarded, but hey. And so Deku pushes on with his life, and they're not really friends per se, but since they kind of are, since their parents are friends, and Bakugo knows that he has a quirk, it's just useless, so he doesn't really pick on him that much compared to the canon. And so let's say maybe sometime while they're still in kindergarten, Bakugo starts picking on a kid because his quirk isn't very strong, and since he's seems to be the weakest in the class, just like he was doing to Deku in canon, because he was weak and didn't have a quirk. Since that kid is the new weakest, I guess, and so Bakugo is just messing with him and bullying him. And then Deku sees that kid on the ground, and then Bakugo and his lackeys just around him. So he goes in and just jumps in front and tries to help. And then Bakugo tells Deku to get out of the way unless you want to get beat up too. Then he punches his hands together, and then the smoke comes off of his hand. I'm gonna say they end up kind of fighting. So, and since Deku's there and he does have a quirk and he sees him as stronger, he brushes it off, and him and his lackeys end up going away. And then he just talks to the kid and asks if he's okay, and then it just goes on from there. And now let's skip to middle school. Deku in middle school has come to a realization of how weak he is, and he feels like he's been wasting his talent in that he has a quirk, but up until this point, Deku's never really trained it. So I'm just gonna say, because he got older, his quirk evolved to a little bit, and that strength increase and the speed increase came in fully, but he can still only stop time for about, let's say, 5 more milliseconds, 60 milliseconds. So he feels like he hasn't really improved from then. So from then on, I'm going to say this is 6th grade, at the beginning of middle school, he starts to train his quirk. And by the end of 6th grade, in 7th grade, I'm going to say, instead of picking up forms of martial arts, I mean, he's tried to train in martial arts, but he couldn't really, get into it. Then he also tried to do boxing and kickboxing. He picked up some of the kicking part, fast strikes of kicks, but boxing wasn't really his thing, because that's really how generally everyone else fought. So he came with an idea fighting style that matched with his quirk. Since he was moderately fast, he came up with the realization that he could fake out with his quirk. So he could throw out, so how some boxers, they throw out feints to fake out opponents and then actually strike with a haymaker, so they don't have to follow up to it. So Deku, he can just do a full-out punch, use a time skip, and his punch could be somewhere else. He could be behind his opponent. And so he uses that as his primary fighting style, and he thinks it really works, even though he hasn't really fought anyone yet. So I'm gonna say one day in class, they're still in middle school, but he still draws in his journal for heroes, but it's not really for heroes. It's more so fight. He likes to think of different ways to fight. That's kind of his mentality. He's not hungry to fight, but he just thinks of different ways and outcomes of what he could do, how to make himself better and stronger. Think of it as a drawing board of all his different ideas on how to get better. So I'm gonna say that Deku not Deku, stupid. I'm gonna say that Bakugo try to do what he would do later but we're not at that yet. He tries to explode his notebook, but Deku's not slow. He snatches that and says, "What are you doing, Bakugo? Bro, I told you to leave me." Yeah, I'm gonna say, he kind of created his own fighting style. So he tried to pick up martial arts, but he wasn't really. It takes a lot of discipline to just stay on one thing for a long time and learn it. So he hasn't really. He's been So I'm gonna tell you. So Deku, he tried to do martial arts. That didn't really work out, and so he tried to do boxing and kickboxing. He did generally like kickboxing, but at the same time, well, he picked up the kicks and the fast strikes of kicks from kickboxing, but he didn't really, do a normal boxing stance, because generally that's how everyone else fought. Everyone else fights. Really, people just fight with their fist boxing stances. Well, then Deku had an idea. Since he can stop time with his quirk, he thought maybe he could, some boxers, or just people in general who fight, they throw out feints, and then they throw out a real attack after that. Just kind of like fake out your opponent. But if you're smart, you can realize that one strike was softer, or like not as hard as the other, and block from there. So Deku thought if he could stop time, right, he could do a full force punch and then time skip, and he could be just anywhere around his opponent in a matter of just a few seconds less, a few milliseconds less than a second. He still has enough time to, be somewhere else or another side of his opponent. He could be beside his opponent, under his opponent. Even that's kind of weird to just, and not any. I'm not gonna say anywhere, but not yet at least. So Deku has gotten, pretty strong now. And I'm gonna say one day again, Bakugo and his lackeys, or his goons, whatever you want to call them, were picking on another kid. And this time, Bakugo's, he's gotten older, more arrogant. So this time they could get into like the same kind of spot. But this time, Bakugo, he's not backing down this time. He says, Deku, if you want to go, we can go right now. Deku isn't one to really, fight or give in to those types of things. But naturally, for like most of the year, the first year of middle school, he has been training, so he kind of does want to, kind of see what he can do. And Bakugo is really like the only strong one from their school. And so, but Deku says, just leave him alone. Bakugo's still not gonna back down. So Bakugo does the first strike, throws a right hook. But Deku can actually react very fast for not actually being in a fight. It's kind of like adrenaline. So he time skips and just grabs his arm, and he does Bakugo dirty. He grabs his arm and punches it right in the elbow, bro. And then Bakugo heard a crunch, because mind you, he does have a strength increase, which it's a light strength increase, but for now, if you were to punch a middle schooler with a strength increase, that's gonna hurt. So Bakugo feels a crunch in his arm, and he's mad. I mean, that boy livid. So he explodes Deku. Deku didn't really get time to dodge that, so, he partially did, but he got wind of part of the explosion. And so from then on, Bakugo tries to go for another one, but Deku's ready, and then he uses his arm as leverage and hops over him, pulls his arm, and slams him to the ground. And Bakugo is actually down pretty fast, surprisingly, and his goons are confused because the last time they saw him, Deku couldn't really do anything. He was pretty useless, and like he kind of had his cheery nature that he has in canon then. And so Deku says you should have left the kid alone, and he just walks off, and the goons don't really know what to do, and they try to be like, hey man, Bakugo, are you okay? Which was a stupid question, because man is lying there and knocked the fuck out. And they ended up taking him to the nurse. Mind you, this was happening in a classroom, so Deku wasn't really thinking. It was one of those situations. like that, everyone just saw that go down, and they're just wondering like, what was that? They didn't, because nobody really knew Deku was that strong. Kind of just like a hidden strength, and so Deku ends up literally just walking off, and then he realizes he's kind of skipping class, so he goes back and just sits down. And because of plot, nobody gets in trouble, because if Bakugo was getting away with that shit, he could do the same thing. And they just ended up commencing class with Bakugo just not in it. Well, Bakugo not in it. And I'm gonna skip another year later, and from then they've been fighting a lot, and I mean a lot, because imagine just getting absolutely humiliated and getting just basically two-shot, a punch and a slam. That's cold. And so yeah, they just been boxing from then on, day after day. And then they have been getting in trouble, because it hasn't just been unnoticed all the time, because since then they have been fighting for a lot. I mean, bro, you might as well consider them sparring buddies. And so they kind of Bakugo kind of like has they both have a mutual respect for each other, because they've been fighting for so long. But lately, Deku's been getting tired with it, because most of the time it's Bakugo starting fights, because most of the time when he tries to, it doesn't really work on Deku unless he hits first, because after a while, Deku has been like because of Bakugo and his widespread attacks, and just him in general trying to punch him, he's gotten accustomed to just straight up dodging him like Ultra Instinct style, because of his time skip, and then and the speed increase, so he can just finesse all of his attacks and end up not fighting him. So now Bakugo tries to do some cheating shit. He starts, messing with other helpless students because he's the strongest, which kind of rattles up Deku, and he has that natural essence of a hero, you could say, so he tries to protect them, and that gets him into fights with Bakugo. And they throw hands, yeah, on a just normal basis, like I was saying. And so now I'm gonna skip this to just one of their fights. Deku finally had enough, so he busts Bakugo's shit. He gets a chair, time skips, throws the chair at him, and just punches it with this dozens and dozens of punches in that span of time, just because he was that mad. Normally he wouldn't be able to do that. He was just that mad. And he punched it so much, so fast, because mind you, time is frozen. Think about that. Well, time is stopped, not frozen. In other words, it doesn't really matter. Time is stopped, right? Think about it. So think about how fast you're really punching if you're punching as fast as time is stopped, when other people can move as fast as time is being, and to them it feels like it's being slowed down. Imagine punching while time is stopped. So think of it as like a flash effect. How the Flash, like, since he punches, so he doesn't really have a strength increase, but because he's so fast, he has like, more strength to his punches, because he's so fast, and he has that extra force from speed and that acceleration. Yeah, Deku has that, plus him just losing his shit because you can't put up with Bakugo anymore. He just mollywops the chair. It has dents in it. It's almost torn apart, and it boosts into Bakugo while it's already on him, and it blasts him into a wall. Yeah, you guys are probably wondering, how is this man alive? Well, because of plot. Yeah, Bakugo is just cratered into a wall. Deku is suspended because not only did he murk another student, he got school property damage. He destroyed the whole wall. So yeah, he got expelled for that day. Not for that day. He got expelled for a week, I'm gonna say. Not expelled, suspended for a week, and he's lucky he didn't get suspended. And so I'm gonna go ahead a little bit longer. So I'm gonna say just a week later, it's just a normal day because they don't really have he doesn't really get his notebook. Bakugo doesn't try to take his notebook again or explode it. So it's just a normal day, and Deku's walking home, and so Deku's walking, and then he doesn't really have Deku doesn't have enhanced sound, anything. He just has enhanced awareness because he's just used to Bakugo jumping him and his things around him. So he's always carefully analyzing his surroundings and stuff. Even while in his mind, even though he's not really fighting anyone, he's always looking for potential points to do some crazy shit, just anything to strengthen him. Even just a random wall. Just while he's walking, you don't know what's going on in people's heads. This mad lad. So he's just walking, and he hears he hears something in the drains, and he's weary of that. So, but Deku minds his business, so he's just walking past that, just with speed walking past that, and just act like he didn't hear anything. And then the Sludge villain is just behind him. He looks back and just continues to walk. And then the Sludge villain is like, "Hey kid, don't act like you didn't see me. Give me your body." But no homo though. Yeah, so the Sludge villain the Sludge villain says, "Give me your body. Your body seems pretty muscular on some Ginyu type shit." All right, for real. But yeah, the Sludge villain tries to take Deku's body, but bro, Deku is just swerving him. He doesn't really have the right quirk to deal with him, and he hasn't come up with all of his techniques yet. But yeah, so he doesn't really have a way to deal with him. So for now, he's just avoiding him, and he's getting into some close calls because the Sludge villain stretches and spikes around with his tendrils, and he tries to hit him, but Deku ends up dodging it, not on the Ultra Instinct type shit he was doing to Bakugo, but just being able to avoid it. And then All Might comes in and says, "I am here," and does his, what was it, the Texas Smash or whatever. He does one of his smashes, and that just shoots a huge just wad of air pressure at the Sludge villain, and somehow it doesn't hit Deku. And so it just it splatters him everywhere, and Deku's fine. And All Might's you did well to keep away from the villain, and I think it's good that he said it was good that he didn't get hurt. And Deku does have still having, like I said, the nonchalantness, and he's in his head he's analyzing All Might, his height, I don't know his height, his body shape, and his shirt, and just anything you can see on All Might. And at the same time, he is a hero, and then it is his favorite hero, so he still asks for an autograph, and All Might gives it to him, and then jumps off. And Deku doesn't really ask the question, because he has been planning on going to UA, and he does think he can become a hero because of what the doctor said and how he was brought up, because now he has a quirk, and he truly believes that he could be a good hero. He's not gunning for the #1 spot, but he feels like he could be the strongest, because to him it's two different things to be #1 and then be the strongest. He understands how a true hero is, and how the #1 would be the symbol of peace. He doesn't really want to be that, but he does want to be the strongest. That's basically his mentality on the whole hero thing. And so, and then I'm gonna say that that All Might was thinking about how Deku could be his next successor, because he was able to avoid the villain, and he forgot to ask Deku about his quirk. So I'm gonna say that Deku kind of when he jumped, he kind of turned around and dropped the bottles, and then he thought he wouldn't have enough time to talk to Deku, so he ended up just going to the building. And, that's from there he untransforms. And so Deku's just walking home, minding his business, and he hears the explosion, the fated explosion. And he gets over there. He gets over there pretty quick because he's using his quirk to time skip just a few seconds. So I'm gonna say he gets there just a little bit early. well, plus the speed boost, so I guess, yeah, he gets over there fast. I'm gonna say what I said. And so, yeah, there's Bakugo. And Deku just having this thing in his head, knowing that, you know, Bakugo is not a good person. To him, Bakugo is just not a good person in general. He has a respect for him, knowing that he can put up a fight. But other than that, like, he has just a zero tolerance for this kid. Bro, he just doesn't like Bakugo. And so he's having this thought, like, whether he should help him, whether he shouldn't, whether he should help him. And then he sees the look in Bakugo's eyes, and he just bolts towards him. And Deku does something Deku feels like he's moving faster than he really would because adrenaline. And Deku ends up thinking, he ends up doing something that he didn't think he would be able to do. He time stops, but in that span, he punches and punches and punches, just dozens of them. Not dozens, no, I'm gonna say hundreds of punches. Yes, that quick. And he does it. He does a time skip Molotov. Just punches super fast coming in. And, like, you know, it's not like, you know, how All Might just punched the air once and they spotted him. But he was punching so fast, it was building holes in the Sludge villain. And he was confused because he didn't even get time to react or, like, process Deku being there. And then the Sludge villain just exploded everywhere. Like, there at first there was this holes popping out, and then boom, he's gone. To everyone else, you just saw a kid just instantly pop in front of him, and then the Sludge villain exploded. So everyone's like shocked and dumbfounded and just confused. Like, they didn't even register he was there until the Sludge villain exploded. So one person starts clapping, and then everyone else does. And Bakugo's like there on the floor because just popped out of it. He couldn't even get the proper footing. And Bakugo looks up, just confused as well, like how he got saved and stuff like that. And so the heroes go and get Bakugo, and then they comment on like how Deku, that wasn't really like you get that, how Deku could have gotten hurt, and he just left it up to the pros. But like I said, Deku was bold, and like, if I would have left it up, he says, if I would have left it up to you guys, he would have just sat there and died while you guys were there, not able to help or do anything. Useless. I'm sorry. And so I'm gonna leave it off there. I'm gonna continue this, you know, maybe another time. Well, I'll see you later. Bye, clan. Be epic gamers. Oh yeah, by the way, this isn't my art, because I don't want to be that person and just like get this and take someone else. I did not draw this. I am not talented or that talented at all at drawing. I don't think I could draw it. So this is from GD Senkai. Yeah, GD Zenkai. No, I don't really know him, but I know this is his art, or their art. So, you know, please check them out on DeviantArt, and bye again.